Your mental health matters. Positive Mental Health Week on Tipp FM.
Singer Trudi Lalor's brand new single is a duet with her mother, Philomena, and it's taken from her forthcoming album. Her mum, Philomena, has just turned 80 and literally stepped into the recording studio for the very first time. And although she's been singing all her life in local concerts and dances, it took a rather sad event in her life to finally convince her to record a very, very special song indeed. The song was always sung in their homes at family gatherings where Trudy's brother Alan would play guitar and sing along with them. And the first time Trudy and her mother performed this beautiful song, The Beautiful Isle of Somewhere, was as a duet at Alan's funeral, because last year Alan took his life at the age of 53. Philomena and Trudi, you're both very welcome, and thanks indeed for appearing on Tipp FM with us. We've been getting a huge response to the song Beautiful Isle of Somewhere, and we'll get to the song in just a little while. But Philomena, if I can turn to you first of all, can you tell me a little bit about Alan? He suffered with depression for quite a time, didn't he?
He did. He did indeed, yeah. He took his first breakdown at the age of 29 and sort of went into mild depression at that stage, and it went on from there. And the first we really knew about it was one night when he ran out of our house at home, and he ran through fields. We couldn't find him anywhere, so the Garda were called in, and we went around looking for him. And then one lady rang up or came down to the house to say that they had found his jacket inside a hedge up on the main Limerick Road.
Yeah.
So we went out, and they eventually found him on his way back down, and he could barely remember what had happened. But they gathered up his jacket and whatever and brought him back down. And our local priest at that time turned out to be a great friend of Alan's, Father Tom Lalor. He was there, and we all helped him as best we could. He cried and he didn't know why he had done it and all. And the doctor, our local doctor, was called. And he had a chat with him, and a few days on mild medication. And he seemed to come back to himself then.
Yes.
But not nearly as friendly or, not his real self.
And was he ever the same after that, Philomena?
He was never the same after that, no.
Yeah.
He went out of our house then. He wanted to live on his own. And he went up the town of Mount Drad to a 3-storey building, and there were flats on it, and he went to the very top one, and he wouldn't come out of there. And one day I was going up the town, and I heard this, hello, how are you? And he had his head out through the little skylight up on the roof of the building, saying,
and he saw
hello.
you? Yeah.
He saw me, yeah. He looked out and saw me. So anyway, in the meantime, he was on this medication, but somebody had to look after him and bring him down. And he went to another flat after that, but it didn't matter what flat he went to, that sickness was progressing, getting worse.
And before the first breakdown, as you say, had he given any indication at all that... No.
He had been... he was always, as a little fellow, he wasn't as tall as his other brother.
Yes.
And we often think after, and you can be wise after the event, that he used to feel inferior to him.
Right.
But he was always... and he had... I remember his dad one time, we were getting his clothes and getting them washed. He was about 4 or 5 at the time only. And I tried to get this jumper off him, which he loved to wear, and he wouldn't let it go. And I said, Alan, I've got to wash it. No, you're not going to see my arms. You're not going to see my arms. And all this, we got it away. We thought nothing of it at the time.
Yes.
But a lot of these things are coming back now.
Right.
I'm wondering, was it part of his personality all the time? And
so he took his own life last year, July 4th, wasn't it, Independence Day?
The 4th of July, yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah. And had he tried to do that?
He had.
Yeah, he tried to do that a couple of times,
He had about 10 years previous to that. He was a patient in the mental hospital, St. Vincent's in Portlaoise, and he suddenly came to one Sunday morning. He turned up at my house again, and he said, Ma'am, would you lend me €20? He said, I just want to get something. And I said, what are you doing out, Alan? Why are you... Oh, yeah, I'm grand. He says, I'm out for the day. But it turns out that he was spent it on a fare to get to Dublin. And lay on the side of a track or the little bank that comes down to where the rails are for the train. And when the train came, it was one of the electric trains.
Yes.
Lewis, is it a Lewis or
Yes,
whatever?
it is, yeah.
He rolled down along it, but luckily the driver saw the head coming up
Right.
and was able to brake, which the other big steam trains
Couldn't
couldn't have
possibly
done.
do, yeah.
And he was rushed into hospital. And I heard it that morning on the news that traffic was held up on the railways, the lines, owing to him. And took no heed of it until the hospital, St. Vincent's Hospital in Dublin, rang. It must have found his number or something, address,
Yeah.
and got through to me anyway that my son had been there. So
And was that a
went-
total shock to you at that time, Philomena? Was
Terrible.
that? Terrible shock.
terrible
yeah.
shock. We went up and the doctor was out straight away and come in and see him. You're his mum. And I went in and I said, Alan, what's wrong, love? You know, he said, he missed me. He said he saw me head when he was coming and it didn't happen. So as far back as then he tried.
And was he
to take his
disappointed
time.
about that at
He
the time?
was,
He was
seemed to be.
disappointed that...
Now somebody had said to me after, well, that was a cry for help. But yet only for that driver saw him. It wouldn't have been.
It wouldn't have been a cry
He
for
didn't
help.
want to live. And from then on, he went downhill instead of getting better.
So was it any surprise to you then last July?
I said I knew it was coming sometime.
Did you?
Because, and since he's died, some of his friends, who were great friends he had, some of them very good to him, had said that he used to say to them, I'll go that way myself one day, or I'm going, there's nothing to live for. But they took no heed of him because he'd be saying these things anyway.
I know.
So he succeeded, God rest him.
Trudi
Yeah.
is with us as well. Trudi, I met you around the time of his death and you were absolutely devastated, as was your family as well. And even now I know even to talk about it is difficult for
It
you.
is. It's difficult to hear Mammy speaking about it as well.
Yeah.
Fran. It is. I'm the youngest of 11, so Alan was my big brother, and
Yeah.
I suppose from a very early age he would have been a huge influence on me musically because he was always the one, as Mammy would explain, had the guitar, and
Yeah.
he had a great love of music and ballads and folk music and John Denver, all those kind of songs. And whenever there would be a new LP out of some one of those artists, he'd be always one of the first to buy it and bring it home and play it on the record player and then learn the chords and start singing the songs. So it was always a lovely time to spend with Alan because he was so into music. He was a very, very handsome, very good looking guy. So when depression took over his life for that period of time, as Mammy said, before he had his first nervous breakdown, it was just so sad for us to see a change in this beautiful, creative human being that we had grown to love and admired and respected. And I suppose the first changes were his physical changes, where the amount of medication that he was on at that time, he became very heavy and very bloated.
Sure.
And this really, really bothered him. You know, he used to hate the fact that he wasn't able to get into the clothes he used to be
I
able
know,
to get
I
into.
know.
He was slower. You know, it took a lot of energy for him to even...
And did he keep up the music through
He kept
that
up
time?
the music. He did keep up the music. Not as I suppose he wasn't as sociable as he used to be. Beforehand, he would go into the local pubs and he'd have a lot of people around him singing songs and also playing instruments. After that breakdown, then he kind of used to avoid social contact in that
Yeah.
sense. He would maybe go in if the pub was very quiet, where nobody would see him, and play. A lot of his songs tended to be very downbeat, you know.
Downbeat, yeah.
They weren't uplifting songs. But what was funny about it, Fran, was whenever he would start get into this sing-song, after a couple of songs, you'd see him actually lifting his spirit.
At the graveside, Philomena, both yourself and Trudi, you sang this very special song that would normally have included Alan in it, isn't that right?
It would, yes. She said she'd sing a verse that day at the graveside,
Right.
and I was near her. And when she had finished the first one, I said, well, I'll step in now to myself.
Yeah.
And we just stood over. I felt like singing it anyway. And I just sang it, and
And I was
It
talking
was
to
just
some
beautiful.
people who were there on the day, and they said
Yeah.
it was just the most amazing experience. So
It was very moving,
yeah.
Fran. It was a very moving experience. I suppose it came natural to Mam and I to sing the song because Alan was used to singing it with us as well. It would
Yeah,
always be
yeah.
almost like the three of us together singing the song. So it was just how moved people were in the graveside,
Absolutely,
and the
yeah.
amount of people that have said it, you know, at the time. What a lovely song. Wouldn't it be lovely someday to record it? So I suppose that's kind of what put it into our heads.
It really has grabbed people's attention. everywhere, hasn't it, at this stage?
Has, yeah.
It's been a huge reaction to it, Fran. The song is literally only on YouTube in the last 10 days,
Yes.
and it's just getting so many hits every day.
Just before we wind up, Philomena, would you say something to maybe there's families out there like yourself that somebody in the family has taken their own life, and particularly I'm thinking of mothers because it's particularly difficult, I
Yes.
feel, on a mother. What would you say to families like that? What would you say?
Well, I would say to give all the help and support that you can. And I can understand why, like we were all brought up years ago, there was a stigma. You were referred to, oh, she's a mad woman. He's a madman.
Yeah.
As if it was just something that he had acquired himself and not done anything about. It's a disgrace the way it was treated.
Yes.
And I sincerely hope that now with all this publicity about it and all to this, that people will understand more, help the unfortunate people who aren't feeling well, because mental illness is worse than any physical illness. As we all know, the brain controls the body, and they need all the help and support they can get.
All right, well done. Trudi and Philomena, thank you so much. Let's
Thank
have a
you,
listen to
Fran.
that gorgeous song now. This is Beautiful Isle
Thank
of
you.
Somewhere.
Somewhere the sun is shining, somewhere the songbirds dwell. Hush then thy sad repining, God lives and all is well. Somewhere, beautiful isle of somewhere, land of the true, where we live anew, beautiful isle of somewhere.
Somewhere the day is longer, somewhere the task is done, somewhere the heart is stronger, somewhere the battle is won. Somewhere, beautiful isle of somewhere, land of the true, where
Your mental health matters. Positive Mental Health Week on Tipp FM.